Hello everyone and welcome back to Sendix Weather channel, and today we are looking at the latest from the models for the next couple of weeks, which will take us to around the 20th of July, and we'll have a look at the latest just to see what they are showing for today. I've already said that. But anyway, we're looking at the latest, and there has been, and you might have seen my community post, there has been a trend from some of the runs, particularly the GFS run, the American run, suggesting a major wave of extreme heat. Let's just put it that way. Suggesting 40 degrees on the 6Z run. We're going to look through all the midday runs to see how they compare, and just see what the chances are and give my prediction on the chances of this extreme heat actually verifying and coming off, because not all runs support this. So we'll have a look at the latest, like I said, and we'll get straight on with that. So if you do enjoy today's video and find it informative, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel for more. I really do appreciate your continued support. Let's get straight on with things. So we're going to start with the GFS run. You can see 5th of July, so that's tomorrow. High pressure is centred just out to our west. Low pressure is just to the north of the country, and winds are in from a gentle Atlantic-driven flow from off the Atlantic, from the west. So it's definitely a little bit fresher for the weekend, but again, nothing ridiculous. It's just kind of around average temperatures. Slightly cooler than average for the rest of this weekend with a west-northwesterly tilt. As we see, high pressure maintained to our west. Monday is also a little bit cooler, but remaining mostly dry besides a few showers further north with weakened pressure, we should say. There could be a few showers around. Going into next week, though, high pressure builds over and just to the south of the country, re-establishing a westerly flow again. But as we go into the middle to the end of next week, around the 10th of July, you can see that high pressure begins to move, and we do turn into more of a southwesterly direction wind. Low pressure is established towards Greenland, and we are beginning to drag in some of that warm air. The 10 degrees firm is beginning to move northwards. This is GFS run, just to start, with 15 degrees firm into the southwest. But then the wind turns into a proper southwesterly to southerly wind by Friday and Saturday. You can see that winds in, high pressures to our east and to our southeast. Low pressure to our west, winds are in from a southerly direction from Spain, and we are dragging on a proper long fetch southerly wind, 15 degrees firm through the country, according to this run, if it is correct. That is maintained, and it actually turns to more of a southerly or southeasterly direction. You can see where the winds are originating there from the Baltic Sea states and Italy, for example, and that is just bringing in that southerly southeasterly wind. 15 degrees firm is engulfing the country, and even like the 17 to 18 degrees firm through the country there. By Sunday, evening, 20 degrees firm, so pretty ridiculous. But again, we'll have to just see. What do we think? So if we'll have a look at the 2-metre temperatures on the Saturday, the 12th of July, this one is indicating 32 to 33 degrees, particularly for central and southern England there. Obviously cooler as you head north with more of a westerly direction wind, but definitely a bit of a north-south split if that was to come off. But if you go to Sunday, again, a little bit hotter actually. Still, we're talking about hot air with some of these runs, 34 to 36 degrees further south, and there West Wales is getting the brunt of it, 35 to 36 degrees in the Herefordshire area, for example, and Lincolnshire as well. So a very mixed bag from that run, and very hot run as well, especially around that 13th to 14th. Beyond that, low pressure begins to move back in from off the Atlantic, bringing unsettled conditions, particularly to the north, whereas the south remains pretty dry. And then into the 2nd and 3rd week of July, again trying to build those heights again to our east, dragging in that southerly wind and trying to build in some warm air again. So a very mixed bag of a run. But what do the other models support this? Well, let's see. So we're going to look at the GEM next, the Canadian model, to see what that is showing. Again, high pressure just to our south and west, bringing in that westerly, northwesterly flow, turning into more of a northerly direction by Monday, so a little bit slacker gradients with the pressure, which is going to allow a few showers to form, particularly in the north and the east with that northerly wind. But then high pressure begins to build to our south by the middle to the latter part of next week. It's building to our south, turning the wind to a southwesterly direction, and dragging in the 10 degrees firm by Friday and Saturday. So turning it warmer, probably mid-20s, maybe high 20s further south. As we go into Saturday and Sunday, with the GEM, which is usually the ambitious model, has that 15 degrees firm barely gracing the southeast by Sunday, but eventually does begin to bring it in just a little bit later on. So by the very end, Monday, at midday on Monday, that 15 degrees firm is into the south and southeast. But again, it's a day later, The 20 degrees firm is just getting into the southeast, which is pretty silly as well. Upper temperatures with that. Nowhere near as ridiculous as the GFS on that Sunday, 25 to 26 degrees versus 35 to 36 degrees. So definitely a bit of a contrast there between the two runs. Not to say it's wrong or anything, but again, much more of a mixed run to start with before things do turn a little bit warmer, particularly for the southeast, but nothing like the GFS was showing. So still a bit of uncertainty, but will we see this extreme heat? Well, we'll see what the ECM is showing by comparison. This has just come out. So here we go. Will the ECM support the GFS, or will it go against the GFS and support the GEM more? Or maybe will it go on with its own idea? Again, high pressure just out to our south and west this weekend in Sunday. Winds in from the northwest before high pressure begins to move to our south and east and brings in that westerly southwesterly wind. But with the ECM, surprisingly, it's completely different. Does not bring in that wind. High pressure is actually quite strongly. The Azores high is quite strong to our southwest there. We actually maintain a westerly flow. But by Sunday, look at that. We're actually into more of a west-northwesterly airflow. Pretty ridiculous contrast there. High pressures to our south and west. And we actually are bringing in more of a westerly flow. So definitely a big difference with this run. Eventually, it does begin to establish heights to the south and the east. You can see their heights building over Western Europe there, dragging in the wind more from a southerly or southwesterly wind by the 14th, but it's later on and it's more uncertain, but still only the 10 degrees firm getting into the south there. So a very different run, you must say. Looking at that, it is a much different scenario compared to what the other ones show. And then finally, we'll look at the AI model to see what that is showing. Obviously, it's a very bad run this sometimes, but this does show heights building to our east and southeast, and also towards Norway, but that doesn't affect us too much. But high pressure to our east and southeast brings in that southerly or southeasterly wind there. This one does bring in the 15 degrees firm more widely, so, well, could the ECM be an outlier? Well, we'll have to wait and see and have a look at what the ensembles are showing. But this one, the AI model, the ECM AI FS model, the Artificial Intelligence model, for that Sunday is showing 33 to 34 degrees for southern central England and also for the southeast as well. Pretty widely, besides obviously the north, but of course that could be subject to change. Depends on how far north those warm or hot air masses move. So then we'll have a look at the ensembles. This is for London, and we'll just see how it is. This is GFS ensemble, the American model ensembles. Basically, if you don't know what an ensemble is, it's all of the runs, which is 34 of them, and they're all put together into a model run, really. And that's each of these lines is an individual run. Obviously, the more scatter you have, the more uncertainty. The closer they are, the less uncertainty for a particular type of pattern to happen. So if we have a look at the run, you can see that we're around average to slightly below average into the last part of this week, into the early part of next week, with that northwesterly tilt to the airflow moving in. But you can see there is definitely generally an uptick into the second week of July with these upper temperatures, and the 15 degrees firm at least is getting in. Few runs are getting up to that 20 degrees firm, but again, quite isolated. The GFS does get there just about, but it's not the same as it was shown before. Then immediately it reaches that 20 degrees firm and then plunges down to the 4 degrees firm. So bit of a contrast there. Can see the general trend is above average though into the second and third week of July, but there is still a lot of uncertainty about this, about the exact timings, the exact heat that we might see, but all is to be decided. If we compare this to, well, the general trend is to go up and just stay above average for much of the period. But how hot will it get? There's not any extreme runs like 25, 30 degrees runs in there. So we're not expecting like record-breaking temperatures at the moment, but we'll have to wait and see. This is the GEM ensembles, and you can see there are a couple of runs getting to that 20 degrees firm. They are pretty isolated. You can see the GEM going on its own there, flying up at the end of its run. But the general trend is up. Again, 15 degrees firm average. ECM run, we'll have to look at the midnight run, because the 6Zs and the 12Zs not out, so there we go. Again, a few runs to that 20 degrees firm, not as many, but this one's always a little bit more pessimistic. Precipitation as well, I just wanted to point out, is very dry. There's not much going on. A few showers possible, Sunday into Monday possibly, but not much more than that really. But again, around average to slightly below average before returning to above average temperatures into the second week of July. Just how hot will it get? The ECM does look a little bit less ambitious about this though, but it does seem to keep it in for longer. We actually have the AI model to look at, the ECM AI model. Let's see what that's showing. Again, not many runs getting up to that 20 degree isotherm. I didn't even know this had an ensemble suite, to be fair. 51 in the AI model. But again, very similar trend, above average to going to below average into that second week and third week of July, remaining above average mainly for that period, while above average for the second week. Definitely, though, that is for certain. If we think about the temperatures, again, these might change, are subject to change, but you can see that the temperature anomalies, well, temperatures at the surface could be reaching upwards of 30 to 35 degrees into that second week of July. I think it will reach and maybe peter out about 36 degrees for the southeast, but of course I could be wrong there. I don't think 40 degrees is happening this time. But it just goes to show you, though, that the amount of runs, you would never see the 40 degree temperatures being shown a few years ago, 5-10 years ago, that's for sure. But now it's just becoming a lot more common for these ensemble and these model runs to show it, like the GFS has so frequently in the last couple of days. With its model runs, it just shows the changes that are going on up in the atmosphere and changes in the climate and stuff. Trend is up though. We could see a peak of around 35-36 degrees if the GFS ensembles are correct. Of course, they're not always. Temperatures might be a little bit higher or a little bit lower than that. But the general trend is up before it does return back to closer to average or slightly above average. Comparing that though to the ECM, very similar and also around the same. So temperatures are looking, stupid thing, again going up, but not as extreme with the ECM ensembles getting to about 28, 29. But you can see a few runs getting to that 30 to 35 degree mark. We'll just have to see how things develop. But Sendik's chance of extreme heat, which I would qualify as most of the UK being above 32, 33 degrees, is about 25 to 30%. But that chance could change depending on how things develop. But it is a very uncertain picture, I must say. Thank you all very much for watching today's video. Hope you find it informative. Trying to be a bit conservative on the look with this one, not trying to clickbait or anything like that. Just giving you my thoughts on it all, as we normally do, trying to use an educated prediction. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye, everyone. Comment, like, subscribe. Do it.